welcome to this week's webinar. I've got the fantastic Amanda Winwood from Made for Life Organics and the Made for Life Foundation with me today. Hi, Amanda.
Hello, Sarah.
Hi, lovely to have you with me today. And thank you so much for the incredible Spa Fest last month. That was such a great event.
Oh,
Thank you. I've just got a list of
it's a
questions.
pleasure. And just to let everybody know that we have booked Carden Park for 2026. So get your diaries ready, 7th and 8th of September.
I will be there. It's brilliant. I honestly really recommend it. It's such a great event. Thank you so much.
Brilliant.
I've got a few questions that I've put together just to kind of share a bit more about the Made for Life Foundation and talk around making treatments more accessible for people who are in their cancer journey so that spas can really understand more about how they can achieve that. So the first thing I wanted to ask is, you have a phrase, truly welcome. It's such a powerful statement, but what does it personally mean to you in the context of the wellness and spa experience?
It's a really good question. So what does truly welcome mean? I think true is authenticity. And I think that being inclusive means authenticity. So when somebody is truly welcome, it cuts across all the boundaries. So it means that whatever you are, at whatever stage of life and health, that you are truly welcome into, whether it's a salon or a spa, or an independent therapist, that you are able to confidently and authentically welcome anybody. That's what it means to me.
I like that, because I think in the past spas haven't been that way. And so why do you think so many people living with cancer or other sort of major health conditions still do face that exclusion when they're trying to access spa and therapy treatments?
I think it comes from a number of things. I think number one is our colleges and education system within the beauty and wellness sector really need to sharpen up, to be honest. I think that it's inadequate, the training that's provided at that level. And I came across some students in their 20s just last week who've graduated relatively recently, still not getting the training that they need to be able to leave and be able to straight away when they enter the industry have that confidence and those techniques to be able to deliver treatments straight away. So I think it starts at college, and that's very unhelpful. I've spoken to so many oncologists and nurses, and we have a very good relationship with Macmillan, who have just they don't understand at all why that denial is happening. And the second part is really some of the insurance companies. So the insurers are also part of the problem. So I've heard a lot of spas saying that their insurer refuses to insure them. That's changed, and actually, as part of the Made for Life Foundation's work with the Standards Authority for Touching Cancer and Care, the SATCC, now have available for anybody who is interested some really great details around insurers. But those are the two key issues: ignorance from in terms of leaving college, and ignorance from insurance companies who should know better.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it should become standard training, shouldn't it? A therapist shouldn't be able to leave without having the training that means that they can treat everyone. So it's open to everyone, rather than just doing the training that we've been doing 20 years ago. Because 20 years ago, when you were in a spa, you literally, anyone said cancer and you'd be like, no, I can't do it, and that's not where we want the world to be today. So I guess you're right, like the education system needs to change.
Well, absolutely. And it was one of the hot topics at Sparfest. I think I take my hat off to people like Di Hay, who's pioneered it at apprenticeship level, working with
Yeah.
companies like Champneys to make sure that it's there and an inherent part of an apprenticeship scheme. And we just need a whole load more of that. It needs to happen more quickly, because we are simply in a space which was predicted some years ago of 1 in 2 people are going to experience cancer. So if we don't accept that as a fact, then not only are we causing harm through the psychological effect of people being refused treatment when they go in because they want to feel more well, but in terms of that, it's a commercial decision for a lot of spas too. If you have a look at your customer base and you think, ooh, potentially 50% of the whole of the UK population may experience cancer, and you think 50% of them are women who are primary spa users, then if you do the math, and I know you're very good at this, you actually start to do the calculation
Yeah.
in terms of A, providing a service, and B, lost revenue, and it's just a no-brainer. Hashtag, just saying.
I love it. But you're right, because actually you've got your person who is in their cancer journey and their friend or two who just won't come to that spa. They'll look for somewhere that they can go that's welcoming to them. So from a financial perspective, and the insurance, I didn't realize that the insurance still isn't there in place.
Yeah.
That's
I've had a couple of words with different insurers, and have they've changed their mind after a conversation and me talking about human rights and actually the Disability Act. So they need to shape up. But I know that Sue and the SATCC advisory board and board of trustees are doing a pretty epic job on having a little word with some of the insurers, and there are some spectacular and very good ones out there who are very pro supporting the wellness sector in making sure that they can welcome anybody.
Yeah. So what was it that specifically was the catalyst for you to make this your mission, to make the space more welcoming? What drove you to this?
Um, that's a really, really, really good question. So the catalyst, it was a great question to read, and I was thinking, well, when was it the sort of eureka moment? And so I'm going to wind back the clock, because as well as running an organic skincare business, in my previous life, I ran 2 hotels down in Cornwall. So I was the director, sort of stroke manager of 2 hotels in Cornwall. And we had a very, very lovely lady worked on our reception. Her name was Julie Tremaine. And Julie and I we worked together a lot. And she came in one day, and she'd had cancer, and she developed a secondary cancer, and she'd been turned away from our spa in our hotel. And it was because the product range that we were working with didn't treat people with cancer, still don't actually. But Julie, it was just, I couldn't believe it, to be honest. And I thought, well, why? So I started. That was it, and I was on a mission then to find out
Wow.
why Julie had been turned away. And so I went and talked to the breast cancer nurses at the Mermaid Centre. I spoke to people who were oncology surgeons, and I couldn't get an answer that said, oh, well, it's because of X, Y, and Z. All I got was horror. So that's where it started. And I had an amazing spa manager that is still one of my best friends, Shani. And Shani and I went on a mission just to, first of all, we developed a treatment. And then we worked with Mark Innes and the Complementary Medical Association, and we developed a training course, because I was tucked away in Cornwall thinking it must be just me, and then found out that it was rife, that at that stage 96% of spas were turning people away with cancer, and that was about 20 years ago.
Wow.
and we're still at kind of about 75%, but it was shocking. But that was my eureka moment, is just being very fond of somebody and working with them and thinking, this is not good enough. This is not good enough. And
Mm.
you either accept things in life, don't you, or you go, I can't bear that. I need to make change. So yeah, that was it. Julie Tremaine, Cornwall.
I love that. I love it. And you're all about heartfelt and actually hearing that story. It just really, it really, yeah, I'm really touched. Like that it was one person who couldn't get a spa treatment that you were then, this is not acceptable. This is not right. But I'm surprised that when you just said that 96% didn't do cancer, accessible treatments, but even today, still 75% aren't.
Yeah, it's really high. And the 75%, I need to sense check that, because that was the latest figure. Interestingly
Mm.
enough, I've asked that because, as you know, we run tea and therapy events for people across the UK who are living with cancer. And I asked that question. I ask it quite regularly. How many people have been turned away from a spa? And so there's not the specific data, and I do need to collect it. But I asked the question this year post Sparfest, because the money
Yep.
from Sparfest goes into fund with the Great British Tea and Therapy for people with cancer. And actually, there were 65 women in that room, and only about 40% of the women put their hands up to say they've been turned away. But it's still high, and I think that people, yeah, people like Sue and like the Made for Life Foundation and other charities, we're on a mission to take that to, it should be zero. Everybody should be welcome. It
So
should
when
be
you said it, I was
undeniable.
shocked. I was shocked
Yeah.
because I thought it would be much lower now. I thought there was a huge level of awareness in Spa that it's just not acceptable to not train your teams. Like, so that's
Mm.
why I wasn't sort of challenging the stat from that. I was more surprised that in 20 years it's dropped 25%, but that's or 20%, but that's still not good enough, is it? Spas are not good enough. It shocks me. It
No,
really,
it's not good enough. Good enough at all. And it needs to change. And if we as an industry, because we have amazing talented therapists,
yeah.
and who are compassionate and go into this industry not because they want to earn lots of money. That's not a driver for a therapist, I think.
Mm.
I think it
Mhm.
comes from a different space, and they've got the skills, they know about anatomy and physiology, and actually probably have got the basic skills that give them far more credibility and basic skills on taking those to the next level, to actually be able to welcome people with cancer and fill that gap that sits between the NHS and us as a sector. We need to bridge that gap and enable people who are going through cancer to go, okay, I'm going through all this mainstream stuff, but I have an absolute right as a human being to be welcomed in to do some integrative stuff. So yeah, anyhow, I could go on, but I won't.
I'm surprised, and especially after all the work. I mean, I've kind of digressed from the questions that I'd laid out, but I particularly 7, 8 years ago when we were opening the spa at South Lodge, and I was looking for training for my team because I wanted them to be able to welcome people on a cancer journey. I struggled to really understand the training or the requirements and things. So now that you have the SATCC and the Made for Life Foundation bringing all that information together, it's not like you have to go out and find it. There's literally, you go to the SATCC, there are people there who can provide the training, and as you say, you're tackling the issues with insurance. There's not really any reason, and financially it's justifiable because you're welcoming, as we say, such a large proportion of the population into your spa. There's really no reason that a spa, when challenged, should be saying they're not doing it.
Yeah, well, I agree. But interestingly enough, I had a conversation with somebody this morning, a brilliant spa manager who had somebody in 6 weeks ago, and they got turned away because they didn't have the trained therapist there. So it's still very much there. And the other problem with all of this is that, and I think it's an interesting statistics again. I do like statistics that currently about 70% of women with cancer, when they go into a spa, will lie and not tick that box because they don't want to be denied a treatment. 70%. Fact.
And that's not helpful either, because if they're not feeling comfortable to tick the box and have the conversation, they may not be getting a treatment that is actually adapted for them and their needs. And actually, that's what the service that the spa should be providing, is being able to adapt and welcome that person and make them feel comfortable to be themselves, to be who they are, rather than having to
Absolutely.
lie.
And I think there are some brilliant, yeah, there's some brilliant information. Again, if anybody's interested, they need to go and have a look at the SATCC website, which is constantly being loaded with additional information about, for example, Professor Anna Campbell has established that heat, you need to be very careful around heat. So under 42 degrees is okay. Over
Uh-huh.
42 degrees is potentially contraindicated, particularly for anybody who's had lymph nodes removed as part of their cancer treatment, because the application of excessive heat may, especially in the first 3 years post having either radiotherapy or surgery for lymph nodes, can trigger lymphedema. So, there's some great information and stuff there that, and I think when people have access to information and have knowledge is, I was going to say knowledge is power, but knowledge gives clarity and confidence. And once you can change those things and go, okay, I know these things, so I shouldn't be doing hot stone massage
Yeah.
with a heavy pressure on somebody necessarily with cancer. I need to check a load of things out to make sure that I deliver something that's nurturing, going to make that person feel better, but is absolutely suitable for their health condition.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I was going to ask you is that you talk about therapists needing to work with compassion, confidence, and clarity. And what does that actually look like in practice? And how can the training actually help them to get there? It's things like that guidance on hot stones, I'm imagining.
Yeah, I mean, our own training, we talk about all sorts of things because uh, I think, and it's been quite interesting again, because some therapists go, "Oh my God, I gave this treatment to this person before I had this training. Have I done the wrong thing?" And you have to be very careful about that, because you have to say, well, if you don't know what you don't know, then you have to just do whatever you feel is the best thing to do. So yes, we cover well researched information, we empower the therapist, but compassion is one of the biggest things. How do you have a conversation with somebody? And actually, it doesn't just reference somebody with cancer. Um, how do you treat an individual with compassion and kindness so that the minute they walk through, they
Yeah.
feel held in a safe place? So I'm going to, if it's okay, tell a little story, because I've been doing some training in the last 2 weeks down at Ockenden Manor, and well, actually, I have to say, some of the best scores on the doors from the group of therapists there that I've seen. But what the training should do is it not just give the therapist the ability to do a protocol driven treatment, because this is not what it's about. It's about thinking therapists who can confidently deliver a treatment that can be adapted to anybody who is at any stage of cancer treatment. And what that means is the start needs to be something that's centered on being able to have a compassionate conversation with the person that walks through the door, not the, "Oh, how are you today?" It's maybe it's something like, "How are you feeling, and what would you like to feel?" and let's talk about your medical history. And there's been in the past that fear, and training is really important on this. You need to be able, therapists need to be able to look at somebody living with cancer and have that honest conversation about, have you had lymph nodes removed? Have you got any skin sensitivities? Has has menopause been triggered as a result of your cancer treatment? And often you're going to get all these things. So if somebody's had menopause triggered, do you want to lie on a hot couch? I don't think so. So all of these are important. And what happened at Ockenden is that I saw a group of amazing therapists from the age of 20 through to 50 just all blossom, and the feedback from the training has been really wonderful, because they're going to change their practice as therapists in terms
Wow.
of the way they deal with anybody, which is
That's
just like, whoa, yeah, it's
what you
wonderful.
want to
It's
hear.
wonderful.
That's what you want to hear,
Yeah,
isn't it?
and on the third day, I again I this lady came out of treatment, and she hadn't been treated. She hadn't been into a spa for many years. She hadn't been into a spa since her cancer started. She was stage 3 stage 4 cancer. And you read some of the forms and you think, I think I'm having a bad day. There's perspective. But I went in, and after the treatment had been delivered, because we do supervised practice, knocked on the door, said, "Can I come in?" And she was sitting there, and she said, "I feel like I've been held by my mother." It felt like that. So when you get feedback like that, it's just, that a treatment has become not just somebody lying on a massage table, that the person who's delivered that treatment, the therapist, has done it from the heart, with compassion, with love and tenderness and care. And that's what life is all about, isn't it?
I love that. And I think, like, I mean, even I would say, like, I struggle, when with family and friends who were unwell, to have those conversations. So how having it with someone you've not met before, like, that's a real skill. That is a real
Yeah,
skill that's not, like you say, it's not just following a protocol. It's actually having that level of communication. But when the therapists are working with the person and speaking with them, there's obviously more emotionally, especially, and perhaps physically demanding. How do you then offset that? How do you then support and, to give the therapist that self-care whilst they're still delivering heart-led healing?
absolutely. And I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think that all of us as therapists have heard many things and had experience of people opening up in our treatment rooms, either
Mm,
pre or post treatment. Certainly, I could tell many stories of people who've shared things that they haven't shared with their loved ones.
mhm.
So what we do is, because there's something about, and I work very closely with Louise Baker, who you met at
Yes.
Sparfest, who is a psychotherapist, and is has got a master's in neuroscience, and she and I've worked very closely for about 12 months. So what we do as part of the training is, we've curated something called the gift, which is, the gift is given to the person that comes in through the door, and it centers on psychosensory touch, which actually is what our treatment centers on. So it's all psychosensory touch. There's some really interesting science, but actually what it does is it gives the therapist the ability to do some of their own self-care using psychosensory touch and some calming techniques, etc., that we've developed with Louise, just to go, okay, and to observe rather than absorb. I want, those words are really important. You need to have the ability to step back and observe rather than absorb, because if you absorb, you're going to have an issue. So processing those things and empowering therapists to go, okay, I feel like this, I'm observing how I feel, and now I'm going to do these things to help me just recenter and recalibrate is essential. And it's a absolutely integral part of our training, really important.
And like you were saying earlier with the compassion, it can actually flow into other parts of the sort of spa business as well. Having that observe, rather than absorb is actually quite relevant, I think, as you were saying, in the whole spa experience, because people do open up about a variety of different things in the treatment room sometimes. And being able to recognize that could actually sort of help with some of the sort of mental health side of the industry that we're hearing with people, sort of with therapists at the moment. Actually, that could be taken everywhere, couldn't it? In a way.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think that interestingly enough, I listened to a lecture by a professor back in 2009, Michael DePledge, who was a government advisor. And he stated that by 2020, 80% of the global population would be suffering with depression and or mental health issues. And here we are, and I suspect 80% is accurate. 80% of the global population have some form of mental health issue and or depression. So we need to think about that, because contextually, the world is fascinating, particularly at this current moment in time. I
Yeah.
think we're going through a very big transition, and actually therapists, not only their own welfare, but understanding that emotions and energy is a very interesting currently. We all need to be able to just find our space and look after ourselves and be, I'm going to call it self-centered. And I don't mean selfish, I mean we need to be self, and we need to be able to be centered and just come down and regroup and understand that as a therapist, we're not just giving energy with our hands on a physiological basis. There is, as you said, that heart-led, compassionate approach that at the end of the day, every therapist has a right to go home to the people they love and the things that they love and still have that energy level left, as opposed to feeling drained. So
Yeah.
really important stuff.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm loving about like learning more about the training, is actually there's so much of it that you can just take through everything, can't you? It's not just cancer, it's every aspect of the guest journey could do with a little bit more compassion and a little bit more observing, rather than,
Yeah.
taking it all on board. I guess for spa and wellness businesses that want to become more inclusive, we're talking about that 70 odd percent that we need to tackle. What are the first practical steps that they can take?
The first practical steps that anybody should take, I think, is ask why they're not welcoming everybody, and to understand what the impact is, both on their teams, psychologically and mentally, about turning people away, and commercially. And then the next step would be probably to go to the SATCC website, which details all of the training providers that there are across the UK and beyond, because you've got people like Christine Clinton, who covers America and so on. So, and Ricardo Fisas, who cover Spain. So there's some, what the SATCC have done is they've curated all the training providers that meet the SATCC standard, which
Yeah.
is about going, there is no other standard. This is the standard. Don't be offering half-day training and stuff like that and saying that's going to empower you to be able to treat anybody with cancer, because that is not okay. And I've spoken to people who are leading oncologists who said, I would not allow any of my patients to go through a half-day or one-day training program. Not good enough. So the SATCC have brilliant advice on how to go, how to connect with different training providers that would meet your requirements, whether you want to work with an existing brand and have somebody neutral, or whether you're interested in a brand that complements the treatments. But that would be the first steps, is understand why you're not doing it in the first place, and then take action and just simply visit the SATCC website and go, oh, there's a nice, easy, quick solution. Let me go and examine who's offering, where I'm based, and choose the person that's most suited to deliver. And there's some brilliant training providers out there. You know, me and my team do a great job, but there's some fabulous people there that all offer really, really great training.
Well, just tying back into Made for Life Organics, because you deliver the training, as far as I know, as standard. When someone works with you at Made for Life Organics, the skincare brand, that's just a standard. Is that right?
Yes, it is. It's an interesting one because all our formulations originally were created by Dr. Mariano Spiezia, who is a medical doctor and a very well qualified homeopathic doctor too. So he had a very integrative approach. So all of our products, and he worked with people with cancer in Naples. So all of our products center from this space, which are the roots of where we are. So it's really important for us, and for me, and for Made for Life Organics, it's a fundamental part of the brand. It's about inclusivity. And so yes, it's a given that if you work with us as a brand, you
Yeah.
will receive that training. And interestingly enough, because of our research that we've done, because we did an 18-month knowledge transfer program with Plymouth University, we've got a lot of data about how does aromatherapy and how do plant extracts work on this amazing thing that really is central to our well-being. And we've got some really interesting data about the power of psychosensory touch on people suffering with trauma, which Louise and I are working on a project currently. So what we know is people, yeah. So it's and if you think about that figure again, 80% of our global population are suffering from depression, anxiety, and mental health issues. Trauma is an intrinsic part of that. You don't have those mental health issues if there hasn't been some form of trauma. So for us, Made for Life Organics is just, we're a British brand and we centre on inclusivity. Always have done, always will do. Full stop.
Well, and I think that should be almost a standard, shouldn't it? I mean, you're leading the way. It should be standard that almost now that every brand you work with in a spa should be able to, if college isn't doing the training, we touched on that earlier, then brands should be incorporating it as a go-to standard, I guess. But clearly you've led the way for a long time, and that's very clear in your kind of Made for Life Organics vision to make it open and inclusive and welcoming for everyone. Um,
Yeah.
with the how does I think spas also need to extend that beyond the therapy room, and incorporate into smart marketing and booking and overall guest journey, because randomly I was on the spa website yesterday, and I was looking at the drop down, drop down facials, drop down massage, drop down cancer care, and there were only 3 treatments. And I was like, well, that doesn't feel very inclusive to me, because you're offering just 3, but actually surely some of the other treatments you have should be adaptable. It shouldn't be that there's a drop down for me. I don't know what your thoughts are. Yeah, okay, I can tell. I can tell what your thoughts are.
So if we think about the word inclusivity and we go back to that statistic that one in 2 people are going through cancer, that's 50% of our population. So does that mean that there should be a cancer menu on a spa treatment menu? I don't think so, because actually your average human being, we have got a 50-50 chance of living with cancer or not. So a lovely woman that I worked with, Freya, who sadly passed away when she was 36. She was an amazing woman and created a business called Wholesome World. She had a glioma, which is a brain tumor, but
Oh.
she bounced in her inimitable style to a meeting, and she went, because she had to retrain her brain after having a tumor removed, which was fascinating. She was a very incredible woman, but she bounced in and she said, Amanda, she said, I want to be treated like I'm normal because I represent 50% of the total population. So I am normal. And if we take that as a premise, then actually treatment menus should be curated in such a way that it starts with a conversation. The marketing material should just be inclusive. We welcome all. You are, I'm going to go back to it, you are truly welcome here. So what does that mean? That means cancer is, there are different types of cancer, there are different treatments for cancer. And the knowledge base needs to, and the training needs to empower the therapist that it's not like, oh, here's your 3 little treatments, poor you, sectioned over here. Spas need to be going, you're just welcome. Have a look at the treatment
Yeah,
menu,
yeah.
and we'll listen to your story. We'll listen to your story, and we'll have a conversation, and then we're going to curate a beautiful treatment for you that makes you feel wholesome and well and good. I don't agree personally with separating out, going, this is for everybody else and that's for you. No, no, no. Absolutely wrong, because people who come out of cancer treatment too are often more traumatized at that stage than then when they're being treated, and they want to forget about the fact that they have had to live a different life and gone through treatment. So they want to just live life as well as they can. So treatment menus need to just say, we welcome all. We have trained, brilliant therapists who are going to have a conversation with you and will adapt treatments. So no, get rid of the horrible cancer section. Ugh,
But that
horrible. Sorry.
I literally saw it yesterday, and I knew I was going to speak to you, and I thought,
Oh,
I shall ask that question, because I hit the drop down, and it just struck me that there were only 3 treatments, yet when you selected facial there was like and everything else, and I thought that doesn't feel, like you say, inclusive if you're saying, well, you're super welcome, but only if you want one of these 3. If you want anything else, you're not welcome.
exactly.
Mm.
No, imagine how you'd feel. I mean, I know how I'd feel, and yeah, it's we can do much better, and that is not the answer. That's not the answer. The inclusive is the answer. And interestingly enough, many of the training that is appropriate for cancer, for people living with cancer who've had treatment for cancer, also means you can treat anybody with multiple sclerosis, fibromyalgia, long COVID. There's a whole raft of other health issues that can be treated through doing this training. So, you know, it's just wrong. Just let's think about people as a global population and go, some people are really well and some people are less well. And you can have what you like because we've got well-trained therapists who know what they're doing.
That's more like it, isn't it? It's otherwise you'll end up with all of these different drop downs. You'd have so many drop downs, and actually, what you're right is it just needs to
Oh,
be down to the therapist, not categorizing people into. And also, people don't want to be reminded. I would imagine, they don't want to. They want to just look and have a free choice, or have and then have a conversation. So, I mean, if it is to become like an industry standard, what shifts do we need to see at like policy level, training and leadership in spa and wellness? Because we are obviously still quite far away.
we are still quite far away. The interesting shift, which has been good from my point of view, observing what's going on, is that some colleges are starting to do training. So we've just started to partner with Bath College, who offer our training, which is great. So go Bath College, big shout out for them,
Yeah,
and
love it.
Exeter College of Talk. So, there are some, but actually, there needs to be far more direction. I think SIBTAC, Habia, and the FHT and various other leading bodies need to put more pressure onto the colleges as a collective. We should be coming
Mhm.
together and potentially even insisting in some ways that this is an intrinsic part of college training. It's not an optional. Once people are doing their NVQ level 3 equivalent,
Yeah.
and they've done their hours, their 90 hours of anatomy and physiology, my belief is that that should be a component within every training course that is not even an optional, it's a given. So some colleges are offering it as an optional extra. It should be an intrinsic part of any training college, and that's what needs to happen. And I know that post Sparfest again, Sue and Diane and I were having a conversation, and it's something that we want to take forward, because if we can, as a wellness community, go, we are behind this, and we throw our weight behind it, and we involve some of the certifying bodies, we've got a voice, and then we just need to change it. Where there's a will, there's a way, but it starts with us who are leading in the industry going, this is not acceptable for you to be bringing students who are qualified, who haven't got the ability to deliver these treatments. Go and sort your life out. Go and sit on the naughty stair and have a think about what you've done.
Love the way you've ended that. I think you're right though, because there's so many qualifications out there. We've obviously got the industry. We were talking about it at Sparfest about having the right qualification, but actually the people who are delivering the right qualification should be leading the way, shouldn't they? They should be saying, like you say, it's not optional. At our qualification, you get your MVQ or equivalent level 3, and included in that is a module on cancer awareness and being able to be inclusive in a spa. Because even if that person goes away and sets up their own beauty business, or they work in a spa, or wherever they go, they're going to meet that proportion of the population, and they will want to treat them. They should be wanting to treat them. So it's frustrating, and that we're still so far behind.
It is. But it's a funny old thing, isn't it? Because there's a saying, isn't there? Together we are stronger, and together we are, because we have a voice. I think we're witnessing that in all sorts of ways at the current time, that people, when they come together as a collective, have a strong voice. So I think that if we can come together with people who are working within some of the certifying bodies, and I'm going to talk to them, but FHT, SIBTAC, Habia, all the amazing people out there, that if we can come together and go, we believe that this is vital at college level, because we are delivering, because of those 1 in 2 people who deserve to be able to treat
Yes.
it in the same way as any
Like
other human being. It's a no-brainer. So just build it into your training course, and make often the people that go to college, I find it's very interesting. There's a pattern that often they're dyslexic. We get quite a lot of young women and men, but they're dyslexic, so they haven't done so well at school, which is often, I think, people go, oh, didn't do very well at school. What can I do? Oh, I could do this. And dyslexia it can be accommodated. But I'll tell you a little story. So one of the young women who did my training with me last week, she scored 95% in theory, and the joy on her face, she went, I don't think I've done very well, she said before. I said, I think you have, because you've been listening and you've been learning 95%, and it was the highest score she'd ever got. So, if you think about teaching, maybe the colleges need to rethink the way they teach as well, to a degree. This could be a bit controversial, but if a young woman who hasn't done very well at school at all and flunked can come out and do an intensive 3-day course and score an overall score of supervised practical and a theory, and come out with 96.5%, which is what this young woman did, then it can be done. And it needs to be changed.
Yeah, well, I think we're just a little bit behind, aren't we? And I think you and Sue are probably the people to lead it and be out there and getting people a bit more organized, getting the courses updated, sorting out the insurers. I really didn't even realize insurance was still a problem, that you've come so